You're listening to TJs One of Us for the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. You can find the team on our Twitter at ANY Podcast. You can also find us on our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And now, to bring us in, the Jackdaws.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back, hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hello and welcome to another episode of TJs One of Us here at the Always Next Year Podcast. I am your host for one more week, Shane. I'm always joined by Scott. Scott, how are you?
Good. I'm currently sitting in my hot ass room. This is like one of the 2 weeks of the year where it's just unbearably hot here. So I'm going to stop complaining about it after this because I just realized how stuck up that sounds. And yeah, let's talk Sixers basketball.
I mean, the fact that you always throw a little LA note in there, I almost always want to reach through the microphone and smack you. But that's okay. We had wonderful almost fall weather today, and then 2 hours later, just like it always is in the Northeast, it all of a sudden got 90 and felt like dog shit outside. It was not pleasurable. So I probably felt in some degree the effects of your current room situation.
There you go.
I mentioned it earlier, so eventually over the next couple weeks, we are going to be handing the show off to you, Scott. I will stay on as a co-host for most weeks, we think, so far. We'll try to get some of the other ANYP members on, some of the writers on, and things like that too, I'm sure. But definitely keep listening to the show. It's going to probably go through a little bit of a shake-up in the next few weeks. First of all, are you excited about hosting your own show?
Yeah, I'm real pumped about it. I think we've done a lot of good work together over the last couple weeks. So the main thing is we got to make sure that when you're hosting your 19,000 segments a week, you don't get sick of all of us and then just, pull an Andrew Luck and retire out of nowhere. So we got to keep you happy here. So we will definitely have you on as much as humanly possible. We've got a good thing going. But yeah, I will be taking over a little bit.
Yeah, look, I'm excited for it. So for everyone who's been listening to us for, pretty much since we started, our NBA host was Kevin, which ad spot, Movie Journal Review, by the way. Go to Instagram if you have it. Kevin, our former 76ers host here, had left us to begin his own movie podcast and review page. I'll be honest, almost every single movie that I see it after reading one of his reviews. I trust him that much, and for those of you guys who know how much I enjoy movies and entertainment in general, so definitely give his page a look, and when his podcast is up, give that a listen. But I am quite excited to take a step back from hosting on this one, get that over to you, get a new, like you said, I host so many shows for our network that they're all starting to sound the exact fucking same. And that's not ideal. So I'm excited to sit here and just, answer questions as opposed to come up with them. We started a few weeks back, Scott, talking about the power rankings for the NBA after a pretty wild off season. So we have two sets of rankings to go through left. We have the top four in the West and the top four of the East. So let's start off with the West this week. Next week, we will go into the final four on the East side. But who do you have coming in at your fourth spot right now out in the West?
So, of course, I was thinking back to our rankings before, and I feel like I almost screwed up. I don't think I had the Blazers in the top four. I think I had ranked them 5 a couple weeks ago.
We both had them 5.
I'm rescinding on that, and I'm calling them 4. They're going to be the 4 and the 5 seed. So in a very unpopular move, I've already changed my opinion and my take, and I've got the Blazers coming in at 4. I think they're going to outlast the Rockets and be better than James Harden. Everyone knows how I feel about the Trailblazers already. I think it doesn't necessarily matter who's the 4 or the 5, and I think they're just going to be a little bit better.
I'd be lying if I said that I didn't sit there and kind of reconsider some things, primarily with like the Jazz too. I have a lot of trust in that team, for being a team that I think I put in the 6th spot. So I think I had Utah in 6 and Portland in 5, or vice versa, one or the other. But both teams, I sat there and I was like, man, I don't know how much I'm buying with Golden State this year. I still don't trust the Lakers, and I don't trust LeBron and AD together yet. So I was also going through this process. I have the Warriors at 4, so I did keep it specifically because I didn't want to do what you did and go back on my original power rankings. But I respect the fact that you, over 3 weeks' time of going through this, you and your CJ McCollum love has now acquired both the 4th and 5th seed and will represent. And just who are we eliminating from the NBA at this point out west?
I mean, can we just get rid of the Jazz? I think everyone would be okay with that, right?
I think all the NBA players would be okay with that.
Yeah.
All right. So I went with Golden State. I think that Klay Thompson will come back a little earlier than people expect. I still have no idea what D'Angelo Russell is going to do there for what I truly believe will be a very, very limited time over there. But I am intrigued by it, to say the least. He's very similar in my mind to what young James Harden was with OKC, in terms of, like, he's good enough to need the ball in his hands often, and he's probably not going to get that opportunity playing with KD and at the time, and Westbrook at the time, who was also kind of emerging as a ball handling guard and a dominant guard. And he was just kind of that odd man out. And I feel like when Steph Curry's on the floor and when Klay Thompson is back, D'Angelo Russell is just kind of going to exist. And that's doesn't really behoove him or the Warriors in any respect. So I still think they're going to move on from him at some point during the season. Question is where and what type of piece they look to acquire. But they're such a smart organization that I trust whatever they're going to do. So for that reason, I have them at 4.
Yeah, I think the biggest question to me with D'Angelo Russell, and you had hit it right on the head there, is what are they going to get back to be better? Because, I mean, they're too smart to do a trade and lose any value in this. I've sat and played with the NBA trade calculator and tried to figure something ridiculous out for them, and nothing really comes to mind. So, I mean, we're all just going to be on the edge of our seats midway through the year when they try and make this move.
I don't know. I sit there and I kind of take a look at I was trying to take a look at teams with those 2 stars, and not that you want to ever see anyone get hurt or take that dramatic of a step back that they cannot be considered a star anymore. But circumstances change with injury, and I do think those are the types of things that you have to keep a lookout for throughout this year. If one of the NBA's now big 2s goes down to a big 1 relatively early in the season, depending on the contract situations of either of those players, it may behoove Team X to sit there and say, you know what, I would like to acquire a ball handling guard who is willing to shoot the basketball and take a risk on a guy who's honestly showed a lot last year, especially in the second half in Brooklyn. So it's going to be interesting. I still, despite the fact that there's no easy matchup right now, especially with the contract, I just don't see him completing this season with the Warriors. And if he does, and if I'm wrong about that, I still think there's enough talent and offensive ability on that team that they're going to make noise in the West. I don't know if they stay top 4 if they don't move on from Russell. But I think anytime you have Steph Curry and he's even remotely healthy and on the floor, I think out West they should be a top 4. So who do you have sliding in at your 3? I feel like our 1, 2, and 3 are probably going to be the same here.
They might be. Maybe not, though. And again, this is regular season, right? So the whole goal in the West is just going to be making it in and getting a top 4 seed. That should be the goal of all these teams. And then after that, they'll just kind of go from there. I have the Clippers coming in at number 3. And the sole reason for that is just the uncertainty of Paul George. I do think they're the best team in the West. When it comes down to it, they're by far the deepest. I mean, they got our man Lou Williams coming off the bench as per usual. Sweet Lou's right. Got Patrick Beverley just signed that big deal there. They have Kawhi, of course. Like, I'm excited.
Mo Harkless.
Yeah.
Leave out a former Sixer great.
They're so good that I forget who's even on the team. So I'm excited. I think they definitely win over LA and become, a bit of a favorite out here. But I don't think they care that much about the regular season. They're going to rest their guys, make sure Kawhi and Paul George are both healthy and ready to go into the playoffs, just ready to tear everyone apart. So I got them coming in at 3.
Do you feel as though last year's near MVP season for Paul George was kind of a flash in the pan in terms of what level of greatness he can be? Because I have them finishing 1. They're the best team in the NBA right now with those 2.
I don't have him, just being a one-hit wonder out there. I think he just gets better and better and better. It's just, to me, he had both of his shoulders done. So if he had one done, okay. But like the guy right now, in my head, I just imagine him sitting in a bed with double slings on, which is kind of hilarious. But he's got to relearn to shoot entirely. Yeah, it's again, I'm gonna need to read a little bit further into honestly his rehab and what he's gonna do before he's able to shoot a basketball again, or before he feels entirely comfortable. But yeah, there's got to be some uncertainty in there. Like he is one of the best players in the NBA when he's healthy, but he gets beaten up a lot.
I think my biggest concern with him is not necessarily how he bounces back from a rehab process. I'm pretty sure they're both just like, I don't want to say minor, because anytime, you have had shoulder surgery. Man, that's tough to say after a long day. But I think they're both like minor, like labrum cleanups. Like I don't think that it's anything that's like one of those like 6 to 8 month types of things. From what I remember.
I don't think he got him fully done. I agree. I think one of them might be torn, but yeah, I don't think it was like full reconstructive shoulder surgery there. However, I don't know. He's going to have to reteach his shoulders to both shoot at the same time, which is unique. You don't have just one to focus on. So it's an unknown. I can't remember in recent memory any big-time shooter or NBA player having both shoulders done at once. So
I don't know if anyone's had both shoulders done at once. But my concern with him is how he readjusts to LA. I've never, I know it's weird because last week I said that he is or could be one of the top 5 like clutch players in the NBA. I kind of said that sarcastically and based purely on his game winner or his 4-point play against the Sixers last year. But he's never really been an overly clutch player and someone who can kind of shut that noise out. And he's always seemed oddly passive in places where he shouldn't be, and then overly confident and like almost overcompensating. So, and it's like, I'm trying to remember the interview that I heard last year. I think it was like last off season, when people thought that the 76ers would try to acquire him. And the biggest concern was the fact that he would come over being very similar to Jimmy Butler, the 3rd best player on this team, but have the ego of this is my team now. And I don't know how that fits in LA, and I don't know how it fits with Kawhi, and I don't know how it's going to fit with Doc Rivers. If there is a coach in the NBA outside of Pop, Doc is probably the one that can manage those personalities best. The big 3, big 4, or the first big 3, big 4 of like our teen years out there in Boston. He had a lot of personalities to mesh. So I'm curious how LA and Paul George kind of mesh, not so much his rehab, or even I guess how he meshes with Kawhi. To me, it's just how does he handle being on that coast?
There's that, and the last thing on the Clippers here is, do you see they signed TJOOU as their head assistant coach?
I think they just want to keep fucking with LeBron.
You to the Lakers,
yeah, exactly.
That was a great move to me. I loved that.
I did laugh out loud.
Yeah.
They were already making or remaking a T-shirt. I don't know if you saw it. They remade a T-shirt of Tyronn Lue doing the Iverson step over, except he's Iverson and LeBron is Tyronn Lue. It's hilarious.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes, it is a shirt that I don't know. I say I would buy these things. I wear suits all the time, so I don't know that. Maybe I'll get the inside lining, something like that one day. I think that'd be pretty sharp.
Yeah.
So I think we I guess probably flipped ours, but so you had Clippers 3. I have the Lakers 3 because I totally own this. So for anyone listening, you know how much I loathe LeBron. This is pretty much because I fucking hate LeBron, and I don't trust his arrogance. I guess it's probably the best way to say it. And I don't trust the soft ego of AD out there. And I just think that LeBron does such a nice job of alienating not only his teammates, but coaching staff, training staffs, executives. He is a fucking mess to work with, or so it certainly appears. We could all be totally wrong and have a completely, just misconstrued perception of who and what he is. But I hate the guy, so I'm going to keep saying that he's the damn problem. So I do think that there is still too much talent there with him, with AD, so long as they're playing. And then obviously with D12 again, which is brilliant. But they are 3 for me, and I think they and Golden State could flip-flop, and Golden State could take the 3rd spot, provided they move on from D'Angelo Russell and acquire a piece that makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, I have the Lakers at 2, so we can just keep talking about them for probably more than either of us care to, because I do not like the Lakers either.
Hate them.
I think Anthony Davis is so good, and LeBron, although last year he did pull some bullshit, and I hated what he did last year. I hate everything that he's doing right now. I think he's just gonna suck it up when it comes to the season and put his head down and go through one of those, what does he call it when zero dark LJ or whatever the fuck he does when he just gets off of social media for all the playoffs and stuff. I think he's going to do a lot of that this year.
I hope he does. I'm tired of his shit.
Yeah, because the guy is great. He's one of the best basketball players of all time. I think he recognizes this is one of his last chances to get a championship, with the way the NBA is. And this is a year where it's truly up for grabs. Anyone could get out there, and surprise us and take one home. So him
Pelicans.
and Anthony Davis, there you go. JJ Redick getting the ring. But yeah, I mean, this is LeBron's team. He's going to lead it. He's going to be an adult this year. I just don't, and again, I don't really think it matters if they win 2, 3, or 4. I think they're going to work on resting Anthony Davis and LeBron and making sure they're happy. And yeah, I just think they're too good to not make the top 4, I guess.
Like I said, in a lot of ways, I sit there and I think if you have a top 3, 5 player in the NBA, you're always going to be in the conversation, so long as you have serviceable pieces. You don't even need that great of talent around, just serviceable talent around you. We've seen LeBron win with it throughout the course of his career, certainly his second stay in Cleveland. We saw Allen Iverson here in Philadelphia take a donkey of a roster to the finals. If you are that good, if you are the Allen Iversons of 2001, if you are the LeBron James of, our late teens, early 20s here, you can get away with that. I do think AD is good. I don't have the same faith that you clearly do in him. I think it's more a personality thing for me. I don't know that I trust his will to win and be I kind of, as you put it, I don't trust him to be the adult in any situation, based on the way that he handled himself and his exit at New Orleans. So I have concerns there with the egos and putting those egos in a city like LA. I have concerns. Obviously not concerns strong enough to keep them out of my top 4 in the West, but still concerns nonetheless. Do you have anything further on the Lakers here? I can't believe you have the Nuggets 1 overall. I have them 2, and I thought I was crazy, but I was more interested in you talking about the Nuggets at this point than listening to anything else about the Lakers.
I agree. So let's stop talking about the Lakers and try as much going forward to just not mention them unless we have to, but we're going to have to.
Unfortunately.
So yeah, I have the Nuggets. I'm pulling the roster up now, and do they have a LeBron on the team? No. Do they have an Anthony Davis on the team? No. They have a Nikola Jokic who has zero attitude, is just an all-around hard-working player. Guy might play 48 minutes every game and just be exhausted forever, like the end of time. Like, he's willing to leave it all out there. Gary Harris is great. Jamal Murray is great. Will Barton's great. I mean, their starting lineup is so solid. I think that they are going to win it because they don't realize that it doesn't matter to win the number 1 overall seed during the regular season. And by doesn't matter, I mean, it matters to a certain extent, right? You lock up the home seed advantage of the playoffs. And,
sure.
But in today's climate, I think it's almost more important to rest your guys. And I don't think they care about that. I think they go out hard and play every night. And yeah, I think they're clearly going to win the West. Like, I don't think.
Clearly? Oh my God.
Yeah.
You're sitting here thinking that they're clearly the number 1 seed in a very new, revamped, and talented West. And I'm over here, saying, shit, I know I have them at the 2 seed, but it's kind of by default at this point. I've cleared up all my other spots, and I refuse to put a team at 2 spots, unlike you. Clearly the 1 seed. Jesus. Clearly
the 1 seed in the regular season. I do not think they're going to win the West. But I think they're going to come out just guns blazing this year and be awesome.
I hope so. They're a team that kind of strikes me as like the ultimate depth team. So like we talk about it in football, we talk about it in like pitching rotations in baseball. If you have like the Eagles cornerback room right now, like we legitimately have 5 or 6 potential starting caliber cornerbacks. Are any of them a true shutdown number 1? Probably not. But are they all serviceable, starting outside corners? Yeah, they are. And that's a pretty good fucking problem to have. Baseball rotations. We have Aaron Nola and fucking nothing else. But theoretically, we would be fine if any of these jackasses worked out to be even remotely serviceable this year. And if we had Aaron Nola and 4 threes, that's pretty fucking good. That's essentially what Denver is. Denver has the Joker and then a bunch of really, really, like, there's no drop off. Like, their 6th man could start. Their 8th man could start on their team. And I think that those interchangeable parts just work. And I think that kind of depth in today's NBA is so rare.
It is really rare, but I am getting excited because it looks like we're entering an era in the NBA where it's no longer a super team. It's more of a 1 and 2. And
it's so much better for the game.
It is, and it's so exciting, the fact that we get to sit here and talk about the Nuggets being 1st overall in the West, and we're not going to get laughed out of the gym, whereas, like, last year it's like, well, the Warriors are going to win. Why are we even ranking everyone? Like, season's over. Why do we even watch basketball? We watch basketball because obviously that didn't happen. But but yeah, we're entering an era where I honestly think any of the top 4 teams could win in the West. Like, that's just how competitive it is, and I'm very, very excited for the year.
Yeah, so am I. Like I said, I think where like the NFL has so much parity. They talk about it on the Kelly Green Hour on AMYP here often. It's one of LJ's favorite things. Like, the NFL outside of the Patriots, there is so much turnover in winning franchises and organizations. And I feel like with the way that the NBA is moving towards so many guys on betting themselves on contracts, guys who honestly just force their way to go wherever the hell they want to go. They have so much fucking power in the NBA. It's not even funny. But you are going to have teams now that, because it isn't 4 superstars on a roster against, a bunch of scrubs who are, rounding out 8 through or 9 through 16 on each side, each conference. Like there's a better balance to today's NBA. And again, not that you ever want to see them happen, but injuries happen, or on a positive spin, there are the Jimmy Butlers, the late first round, early second round picks who all of a sudden just make something out of themselves and completely skyrocket to what their value was. And that changes the entire complexion of a conference. And I love that about what the NBA, or the direction the NBA is going.
Yeah, and then my last note on Denver here, I am actually going to Denver this weekend. So, welcome me with open arms to Deep Denver, because I just said your team is going to win the regular season in the West.
Over under, how many people do you think from Denver listen to our podcast? Because I'm fully going to send this out with a bunch of hashtags now. I think that's how that works. I should not, by the way, be in control of sending our shows out and utilizing hashtags. I do not know how social media works.
Oh, I don't either. And we're so similar in that way that we both just hate social media. So don't get me wrong, I love interacting with the fans and talking to everyone, but I'm not used to the fact that getting my opinion out there is still super important at this stage. So bear with me, guys that are listening. I'm getting better at all this, but as Shane said, we're still learning with all this stuff.
Certainly are. All right, so let's go to our media players of the week. This is one of our favorite categories. Scott has a 4 or 5 that we're going to go with this week. But before we do, a word from our sponsor. Scott, you're going to have to get used to doing this shit too. It is Just Food. Treat yourself, take it home. I can't recall their phone number off my top of my head right now because I'm not in my actual studio. How fucking awful is that? Go to Just Food. It's jfcatering.com. There you go. Throw a website instead of a phone number out there for a change. But go visit our guy, Asian Rob, over there. Stop over at his store in Buckingham Green, Bucks County, PA. It is just above Peddler's Village. There is also another one at Del Valle College if you are familiar with the area. If you are not allowed near any school areas, please don't go to that one and go to the other location. We've been asked to make sure we say that. That was a joke, by the way. You guys can totally go wherever you want. Just make sure that you order some delicious food from Just Food. Nailed it. 215-794-3663. Got it. Came back to me. If that's not the number and you get I don't know, the soup Nazi from Seinfeld, I'm real fucking sorry. But let's roll into our media players of the week here. So, Scott, why don't you start us off with, let's start, just because I want to talk about how much I hate the Celtics in general, let's start with that one.
Okay, so we're, with our first media player of the week, we're just going to take all of the Celtics because if you are an NBA fan at all, I'm sure you're aware that Team USA lost to the Aussies down under. Patty Mills came back at the end of the game and dominated the U.S., and we took a loss, and the team is just overrun with Celtics, and guess what? The internet was not happy with the Boston Celtics, and we're all excited about it. I did not get up to watch the game. Sadly, I saw some highlights after the fact, but one of the things that was noticed is Marcus Smart's coming back from an injury. He wasn't out there to try and shut Patty Mills down. But I am extremely happy that Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker just let everyone down and are taking so much heat for it on the internet.
It's fantastic, and especially the new look Celtics that people are still, and if you're in Boston, you still have to sell your image of, we're still a top 3 team in the East and all this shit, and we have Kemba. Never needed Kyrie who, whatever. But to see all 3, I think there's 4 Celtics on that team. Is there not? Jaylen Brown?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Brown. So, yeah, 4 Celtics on that team, and 4 Celtics fucking blow. And it was so rewarding because I also did not watch. It's 3:30 in the morning. I did not watch that game. And but I woke up, looked on Twitter, and I had a good laugh to start my morning, which is honestly better than some movement magic.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, anytime the Celtics are ripped apart by the internet and the rest of the world, we're going to be happy. One of the funny things to me, too, is people just decided to throw Ben Simmons into the conversation for whatever reason, because he's Australian.
The only way that it would have been better was if Ben Simmons led the charge. I think that was the tweet.
Yeah. To me, that was the one thing that would have been incredible if Ben Simmons went out and dropped like a 30 burger on him and just like threw down an emphatic dunk to end the game. And then it was just clear that he is better than all of the Celtics, which we all know. But, the rest of America is now finding out, and the rest of the world too. So
that would have been ultra satisfying, honestly. One of his patent overly exaggerated dunks with, where no one crashes the board around him, and he just throws it down with some giant scream for no fucking reason.
Yeah, that would have been something. Maybe we'll get that when we go to the Olympics, when he actually plays some basketball. Who knows?
Maybe so.
All right, so let's move on to the next media player of the week. This was actually an article that I had shared with you earlier in the week. Mm-hmm. So Sam Amick had written an article about Joe Ingles and why the game against Team USA, or all of the games going on down in Australia for the FIBA Basketball Classic or leading up to it, was so important for him. And this is one of those feel-good kind of stories. So Joe Ingles has an autistic son, and he's actually a twin. He has a twin sister that's the same age. I think he's 3 or 4, but, just a young kid they're just learning about his autism and trying to figure everything out. Joe Ingles has been working with FIBA and the NBA, and it seems like the world in general, to bring up autism awareness. And they created a autism-friendly room at the Marvel Center, I believe it's called, down in Australia. And the room is somewhere where, an autistic kid who maybe would not get to go to a basketball game because they're too overwhelmed with all the sounds or the yelling, and they just would not have a good time. They can hang out in this room, and, it dulls the senses a little bit so that they can go and have a good time and fall in love with the game of basketball. And, they get to experience it just like the rest of us. And to me, I love hearing when players like Joe Ingles or anyone in the NBA use their platform for, a good thing, and they use all the wealth that they amass for something good. And they're really helping out the kids. They're bringing up autism awareness. Just really made me like Joe Ingles even more. You got a chance to read it too, right, Chan?
Yes. Yeah. So you sent it to me, and first of all, I had no idea that his son was autistic. And one of the things that I actually appreciated most is I feel like, had it not been for this basketball classic that's going on right now, like, we may never have actually known that he was doing this. And I feel like it's because it's a global basketball event at this point is the reason that we are, which to me means he didn't really give a shit that anyone knew that he was behind all of this, and that he was using, my son is going through these types of, experiences and trying to learn how to, be able to enjoy society, whether it's at a basketball game or even something as simple as going to the store, going to school, or whatever, difficulties that they may face. And I feel like he was just so content just doing the right thing by his son and, children like his son who are affected similarly. And that he was probably, for a guy who talks so much shit on the court, we talked about this in text, I feel like he was actually probably really content up until the point where this article was released for the Basketball Classic, to just go ahead and do the right thing. He has the means to do so, and he has obviously a personal connection to this particular thing now, and I think it's awesome. And, as much as I want to hear more about the NBA players or athletes across the world who do things like this, I kind of love the fact that I don't want to say there's anonymity to it, because eventually all this stuff comes out, but there are some really, really good people who have a career in professional sports who just want to do the right thing. And I love that.
Yeah, me too. So for those of you that feel like checking it out, the article was called 50,000 Aussies and Autism Awareness, Why Joe Ingles Hasn't Stopped Smiling This Week. It's a good read. It's well written. It tells a good story. And as Shane said, Joe Ingles doesn't really care that he gets any credit for this. He's just, concerned with sharing his love of the game of basketball with as many people as possible and making it so that his autistic son and any other children or adults suffering with autism also get to experience it just like the rest of us.
And like, how cool is it for a professional athlete, like Joe Ingles, who is, look, he's obviously very clearly passionate about his career and what he does. Why would you not be? And how many fathers don't love what it is that they do, and then there's no real need to share that career or job that they have with their son. And like, Joe Ingles gets to do that, and he's now putting his or using his finances and his means and his platform to create the opportunity so that people all over who are professional athletes now have the ability to connect with their sons and daughters about the thing that they're most passionate about. Like, if my dad was that way and I didn't get to share in his passion and the things that made him happy, that would be super sad. And now his son gets to do that and grow up with all the opportunities to sit there and see his father do the thing that he loves. And I just think it's awesome.
Yeah, me as well. So Joe Ingles has clearly climbed up both of our rankings lists in the NBA. So everyone else, step it up, do something good, use your platform to send a good message.
All right. So what else we got in here? We got some James Harden stuff.
Yes, we do. So James Harden hopped into the media for a couple reasons. Let's start off talking about how he had a bit come out where he said the media dictates the MVP race before the season even starts. I don't disagree with this, largely because the media is the people that vote on the MVP. But I think he came out and said it with a bit of, a chip on his shoulder, saying, oh, it doesn't even matter. They know who's going to win beforehand. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think, the media does tell a bit of the story. But there's no way to me that the NBA, so say James Harden was clearly the best player in the NBA this year. He comes out, just crushes it, averages triple-double, and, just takes the Rockets. They hop into the top 4. They play unbelievable. And then say, I don't know, like LeBron's the second best player in the NBA. And he's, going to be in contention for the MVP, and the writers just clearly favor LeBron, and it's a robbery. He averages far less points, far less rebounds, and the Lakers barely skirt in the playoffs. That's not going to happen. The media isn't just going to sandbag something and clearly pick against the person who deserves it. The MVP is always one of the hardest things to vote on every year, and I don't think that they would just go against the public entirely because they had decided before the year that they want to ride the LeBron train this year, or whomever the MVP would end up being.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I sit here and I think I already know the 5 players that I'm most looking forward to watching, who I believe could potentially be an MVP candidate for the NBA. Like, I enter in a season knowing that. You're fucking crazy if you think that writers and those who do cast votes on that don't also enter a season saying, I know I need to watch, comeback LeBron. I know I need to watch Steph Curry, who's going to have the ball in his hands even more with Klay Thompson out and Durant not there. I know that I don't have to watch, or knowing that I also have to watch Giannis and James Harden. Of course they're going in with that. Those are the games they're going to watch 82 games a year of each one of those players. Whereas, and I'm not shitting on Ben Simmons to shit on him, but I don't think there are very many people right now who are walking into this NBA season who say, I need to watch 82 games worth of Ben Simmons because I think he's a dark horse candidate. No, I think James Harden, like you said, is a bit of a chip on his shoulder because I genuinely believe he thinks he is the NBA's most valuable player. And I don't totally disagree with him. He is the Rockets, and I just think that his circumstances are the same circumstances that follow a lot of teams. If you're kind of middle of the road, well, I don't really know that we can give this to you. You were valuable to your team, but how valuable were you to this league?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And I do not want any of my words to be construed in a way to say that I think it'd be impossible for a writer to come in with preconceived notions. Obviously, they're human, right? They're gonna, like you said, watch 82 games of the Stars, and say some random person like, oh, I don't know, Zhaire Smith happens to have an incredible year. They're not going to give him a look at all until he comes out and drops 35 and does it again the next night and hits a buzzer beater. You know what I mean? Like, if there's definitely preconceived notions going into it all. But I just don't think that the media, at least that was my take from what James Harden was trying to say, that the media just decides who they want and that's it. But I get where he's coming from. Like, he does genuinely believe he is the best player in the NBA, and like you, I don't necessarily disagree with him. But that's one of the things that makes him great, is that he goes out there with this chip on his shoulder after having an incredible career already up to this point and making a ton of money to like doing it. He still goes out there wanting more and still angry, and that's one of the reasons he's James Harden.
Yeah. First of all, he is a player that's very easy to dislike on the court if he is not in your city. And I think that when you see players who are as talented as James Harden, I don't want to say like unanimously disliked in traveling cities, but like he's not universally loved in the way that LeBron is, or that Kobe was, or anything like that, or even Giannis to this point. People love this man. James Harden doesn't necessarily get that. I don't want to say he's the villain of the superstars of the NBA, but he's certainly not one of the most loved. And I would take that as a pretty surefire bet that you're a goddamn good basketball player and you're a top 3 MVP candidate. Bryce Harper gets booed everywhere that he fucking goes because he's that goddamn good and a little arrogant. Same thing with James Harden.
Yeah. So what was the other James Harden story that you wanted to bring up here as well?
What was? It wasn't so much like a story. It was like an interview that he had, and it was so I hated James Harden for, first of all, they shoot 7,000 shots a night, and when he wants to, he can be the most just dominant scorer that I may have ever watched. You've talked about it several shows before. His string of 45 point games, it was insane. So he obviously has that step back move that people now mimic. Kids mimic it. There's YouTube videos of it going all around, things like that. And he was finally asked about it. And, I think I can't remember exactly the way that the question was phrased, but I do know that they were basically stating like, does it bother you that people are, basically like doing like a motion caricature of what it is that your shot is, and they take 18 step backs before they shoot, a falling fadeaway 3. And he's like, no. He's like, there are iconic players throughout all of NBA history who had their shot, who had, one of their moves. Allen Iverson with the crossovers here, with the finger roll lay-ins. Like, there are certain things that were, synonymous with the success of Allen Iverson in scoring. And there are certain things that followed Jordan and Kareem and even LeBron. Like, there are certain things that follow these players. And his step back move to him is something that he believes for the rest of time is going to be iconic to him and to this era of basketball. And if he truly believes that he is the most valuable player to this game in this age, and I don't fault the man for thinking that, he should have an iconic move. Like, he has an iconic beard, an iconic look. Like, he is always going to be recognizable. He should also be recognized by one of his, go-to traits. Like, if he was an NBA Street character, like, it wouldn't matter if he was shooting free throws. It would be an awkward 3-step back free throw. That's just James Harden, and I love it.
Yeah, me too. I think the main thing I'm drawing from James Harden now is as he gets a little older in the league, he's worried about his legacy. He wants to make sure that in 20 years, we're telling our kids about how good James Harden was, and when they see videos, we're talking about the step back shot. And he wants to be in talks for one of the 10 greatest players ever or 20 greatest players ever or wherever he fits in. Honestly, I would have to sit down and write out all the names before I could even accurately put him in there. But you got to admire that. The guy's not content being good or making a lot of money. He wants to be great, and he wants everyone to know about him.
For sure. And he wants to win.
Yeah.
And I respect that on a lot of levels. So I think by the end of this fucking podcast, I'm going to be a James Harden fan, but still a maddening human.
Do we have to buy Rockets jerseys now?
We do not have to buy Rockets jerseys.
All right, good.
100% no. They're also terrible jerseys.
They're awful.
Their font is stupid. I just, whatever. Can't do a Houston jersey.
No.
Do we have any other media types of things that we were going to discuss this week, or are we going to actually roll into some 76ers talk for a change?
Let's talk about our Sixers, and we'll step in there with Joel Embiid. Honorary mention this week in the top players, the media players of the week, because where have you been, buddy? We miss you. We want to hear from you. Can't wait to see you back on the court. So do something cool if you are listening to this podcast. We'll know you are.
He makes a media appearance tonight, 30 seconds after I put this or publish this show. You'll know it was us. So You guys can thank us now. Direct line to JoJo, the TJs One Of Us podcast. I'm actually kind of cool with his silence, honestly. I feel like it plays like to this. It plays the opposite side of his caricature as to what he's been throughout his NBA career, is this kind of goofball, and like he's been asked so much to grow up and mature, and like it's totally not his personality. He's not going to not be a big personality, but like I think losing to Toronto the way that they did, like I don't want to say fucked him up, but like I think he gets it. Like I think he's like, nope, I am, like we've seen only a few pictures of him. I haven't seen any like actual video workups of him or anything this offseason, but like he looks good. He looks like he trimmed down some. Like I'm cool with it. If he's just quiet, just doing his thing, having an off season, staying out the media, okay. But the second this season starts, Joe, you better ramp that shit back up.
Absolutely. I need him to be back on Twitter again. I like you, respect the silence and respect him working on his craft right now. But when he comes back out, oh baby, we need some aggressive JoJo back in our lives.
I can't wait. I genuinely cannot wait. So I like I said, I basically, for this part of this podcast, first of all, for everyone who listens to us, TJs One Of Us, we are actually a 76ers podcast. It's just, this is the NBA off season. So we're kind of just talking about anything that interests us. So bear with us. We promise there is Sixers talk coming, and we're starting it, right now. We just took a month off. That's all. No big deal. But I'll kind of continue on the thoughts there with Joel Embiid. Do you have any concerns with him going into the season, knowing that this is going to be a vastly different year for him? Like so much of his NBA career so far has been, I have to prove these people wrong. I have to prove these people wrong. I have to get on the court. I have to be there. I have to play more than 30 nights. I have to play back-to-backs. All of these things. And like now he's going to be asked to not do the things that he was actively fighting for years to be able to do. Do you think that wears on him mentally? And do you think that we see any type of struggle from him?
I think we see a more mature Joel Embiid this year for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned. He's been through quite a lot. The days when we didn't know if he was ever going to play. Guy was drinking Shirley Temples all day, like was refusing to diet, and he considered leaving the NBA. That was definitely something that was brought up. Now here he is, just taking it directly to the heart when they lose to the Raptors. He is now our city, one of the biggest names in it. I think he's, to call back to the James Harden conversation, I think Joel Embiid's worried about his legacy as a big man on the 76ers, because we are a city of excellent big men for a long time.
Sure.
Not including Matt Geiger, who still sucks. But I think he's worried about this year. Like, all right, how, when people are talking about big men in Sixers history, the Will Chamberlains, the Dr. J's, just you name it, just all of the great big men, he wants to not only be in there, he wants to be the greatest one of all. And I think this is a year where mentally he matures and comes out there and is just a different guy. That's where I'm thinking we're going.
I want to have that same thought process. I worry because at the end of the day, I don't believe people change, or I would say very, very infrequently people change. And I appreciate the silence right now during the off season. I think that to me, I'm perceiving it to be growth. I'm perceiving it to be like a part of that maturation process for him. And I'm in my head, I'm like already conjuring up like, oh yeah, like this is Joel. He's going to show up in a suit. He's going to call everyone like sir and ma'am. He's going to have like no personality. He's going to be like some crazy Russian dude who just walks in here and just fucking wins. Like, I don't, like in my head, I'm already painting a picture of Joel not being that Joel that got the $100 million contract. And it worries me because I sit there and I think, all right, I think he's going to sit there and say, whatever we need, if I got to sit out tonight, I got to sit out tonight. If I can only play 25 minutes tonight, I can only play 25 minutes tonight. But what happens the first time that they have a couple difficult losses in a row and Joel is either on a minutes limit or not playing that night? And what if the team doesn't find its rhythm? I don't trust that Joel is far enough or will be far enough this year or maybe ever in his maturation process to sit there and say, this is what needs to happen for the playoffs. I think that Joe's going to try to force his way into lineups and then force his shots on the court. And I think he's going to start to press. And I worry about that more so than anything with Joe.
I don't worry about him pressing. I do always worry about the load management aspect of things. He is a fighter, and there's no way that he ever wants to be sitting on the bench. The guy would play 48 minutes every single night if he could. He just can't. He's too big. He's too injury prone. I think he's going to learn a little bit more under the tutelage of fucking Al Horford that, as you get a little bit older as a big man, you got to take care of yourself. You can't play every minute. I'm very excited to see how they play together and how they feed off of each other, if you will. I think Al Horford's going to show him a thing or two about, being a vet being a veteran big man in the NBA.
So while on the topic of Al Horford, obviously we know he's going to be a incredibly integral piece to the defensive efficiency of this basketball team. We know that he is very much so a guy that Brett Brown should love on the defensive end of the court. Do you think that we're kind of underrating how much Brett Brown may use him and work plays for him on the offensive side because of how, like I said, Brett Brown loves efficiency. It's not something that they've had very much success with, but it's something that he preaches. He's just not always had the pieces to do it. And he now has one of the more efficient shooters in basketball. Like he has two spots on the court that I am pretty fucking confident he can close his eyes in. We can, as an audience, can close our eyes in and know that shot goes down. Do you feel like Brett Brown's going to work in more shots and more offensive opportunity than what we are currently thinking?
I do. I think he's going to be a bigger part of the offense than we realize, whether it's on the ball or off the ball. I think a lot of it is we just can't imagine him out on the floor with our guys right now. We've just never really had someone that's as consistent and dependable as him. You know what you're going to get from him every night. And
most
Brett
Bates.
Brown. Yeah, I guess most Bates, but I mean, it's fucking Al Horford. Come on.
I say it facetiously because I hated that man, but I feel like every time he touched the basketball for us, and Nick Vucevic for that matter, both of them, every time they touch the basketball, fucking score. But anyway, there's terrible examples to sit there compared to a future Hall of Famer. Continue.
I forget that we had Vucevic for a while. that guy is just consistent as well. But Al Horford, like you said, you can close your eyes and you know what he's going to do. And you know when he takes that shot, it's going in. I mean, he's played, I'm looking at some stats from last year. He played 29 minutes a game last year in the regular season. I think he's going to stay on par with that again. And I think Joel Embiid had played around like 33, 34 minutes a game, something like that. So I would say if Al Horford comes in and contributes for 30 minutes a game, puts up a solid, I would say, between 10 and 15 points a night, can't really ask for much more than that. Plus, if he draws any attention away from Joel Embiid, that's just going to make him that much more dangerous.
And also efficient, theoretically, because he's going to pull. First of all, this is like my dream scenario. I don't think that they're going to be on the court with each other very often, but I can't wait for Al Horford to draw out another one of those bigs to around that free throw line at the elbow there where he could take his shots, and then force Joel Embiid to stay down low and just get him the ball in the low post and let him use any one of his 50 billion moves to score that way. He should never be like more than 3 to 5 feet away from the basket. Like, he has so many moves that I don't trust that there's a single person in the NBA except maybe the Joker that's going to sit there and truly defend him and give him that kind of and Al Horford. But thank you for signing in Philly. But to me, like, that's the thing I'm really excited for, is to start seeing his creativity in the low post again. I've never seen a player in our lifetime outside of like Shaq make that sexy. But like, it is fun watching him with, his up and unders, drawing. It's just, everything about him is fun.
Oh, and you know what's not fun? Watching him miss 3-pointers. So
I'm fine with him shooting 3-pointers. He doesn't look like he wants to last year. Like, each year leading into that, like, he was like, "No, give me the ball, I'll shoot." And like, he looked as clean as a guard. Like, it's an over exaggeration, but still. Last year, how many times did we see him like have the slowest pump fake to bring the ball basically to the ceiling, and then like full rock the baby, swing it to go in the lane, and then put the ball in the court and turn it over? Like, he just can't do it. He's too big. You can't put the ball on the floor that often. So for me, certain scenarios, 100% cool with him shooting threes. I just don't want him dribbling the basketball that much. He's like JJ Redick. The two of them, every time they put the ball on the floor, I was like, well, fuck me. Like, this is not great. So like, just find him open at the 3-point line. He'll knock it down, or just feed him the ball down low and then let him work some of his creative magic down there.
Yeah, I agree. To me, it's the opportunity cost of him shooting a 3 and breaking it and getting frustrated, when we all know he could have just gone down low and scored 2 points.
Yeah. And he's a superstar now. He gets the treatment. That man, first of all, this is a completely side tangent rant. We should at some point be commissioners for a day and change the NBA in one of these segments and make it better. But like, fuck how many fouls there are in the NBA. Like, that Brooklyn series, I think there worked out to be a foul every 22 seconds of the game, of game time. Like, I was like, are you shitting me right now? Like, that cannot happen. How is the NBA allowing? There's no flow. There's no pace. There's nothing. And like, that every once in a while there's like 4 minutes of gameplay where you're like, all right, good, we're feeling a flow and rhythm. That means for like the next 4 minutes, it may have stopped like 38 times. That shit's terrible. Anyway, but yes, flows of game, NBA, total garbage. So let's go to something that is also kind of garbage, but I believe in it anyway because I want to. Ben Simmons videos on his jump shots. So are people making a lot out of a little? Are people not making enough out of the fact that he's shooting? What is your stance on the Ben Simmons weekly videos at this point that are, basically made to make him look good?
So I've been doing a little research unbeknownst to all the people around me. I've just been casually showing them Ben Simmons shooting videos, or if they've already seen it, asking them about it. They're like, well, what do you think? Trying to get their just, honest opinion. No one believes that he's going to be good at shooting at all. Like, 0 people. So the videos are fooling no one. He's like shooting against us, like in the gym, and then like they're all hype men being like, yeah, there you go, Ben. Like, I'm pretty sure none of them have ever said that in the video, but that's how I imagine this going on when the camera's gone. We got to get his confidence up. I think the shot is looking weird, but he's getting more comfortable with it. So I'm okay with all this. I could do without the hype, to be perfectly honest, behind it all. I don't know if Ben responds well to pressure or how he'll take this kind of thing. I like seeing it as a Sixers fan, and I'm able to sit there and get excited about his jump shot or be super critical of it. But I don't know if the public needs to be seeing all this shit from him. But it is an ugly jump shot.
It is very, very fucking ugly. So the very first video that came out, everyone was just like, looks pretty fluid to me. And I was like, really? Because when he immediately jumps in the air, it's a left-handed jump shot. And his body keeps contorting, and it becomes a right-handed jump shot. I've never seen that in my fucking life. It's not like he got caught up midair, crashing down in the lane, and he had to switch hands midair and some super athletic type of thing. Like, no, he stood still, he jumped, and in midair was like, I think I'm a righty now. How the fuck does that happen? Yeah. I've never seen, and like you hit that nail on the head. These games are not NBA caliber press defense type of game. This is like a bunch of fucking NBA players who are like playing rec ball in a random gym, and they're like, yeah, you shoot, no, you shoot, no, you shoot, no, you shoot. If he dunks, get the fuck out of the way. No torn ACLs here. Like, I can make shots in that game. You can make shots in that game. It's not fooling anybody. Get the hell out of here. That being said, if you think that I'm sitting here 100% buying it, I fucking am. Because I want to. I'm a hopeless romantic at heart. And I am romantic about his jump shot. One day, I don't care how ugly it looks. We've seen some really ugly jump shots in our lifetime. Marion, for one. Like Joakim Noah. Like, some guys survive with a willingness to shoot the ugliest of jump shots. And like, if Ben Simmons has to be that guy, okay. I'm not asking him to shoot fucking 50% from anywhere. I just need him to be willing. Giannis is a dog shit shooter. He shoots. You've talked about it before with Kawhi Leonard coming into the league. Like, he did not have range. He could not shoot threes. Okay. Matisse Thybulle right now, another future superstar, obviously. He's freaking out because people are sitting there telling him, oh, you can't shoot because it wasn't part of his offense in Washington. Like, you can shoot. You just need to be willing to shoot. And it makes the rest of your actual skill set assets that much more valuable. If they have to come out to guard him at the 3-point line, no one is going to be able to guard him from the 3-point line all the way down into the bucket. Just not going to happen. So I am 100% in on Ben Simmons shooting. I still think he's going to be a dog shit shooter, but he's going to be a willing dog shit shooter.
I cannot wait to see some disgusting Ben shots. I did see, when I was doing my research for this, the craziest take of all time, and I can't believe I can't remember the Reddit username for it. I apologize. But someone compared him to Reggie Miller and they did a side-by-side, and honestly, it wasn't that crazy of a take when you see the side-by-side. They said that Reggie Miller has just as ugly of a jump shot as Ben Simmons, and the only reason that Reggie Miller was as good as he was is because of the confidence he had, which then enabled him to keep shooting and learn how to shoot great.
He's the second best shooter in NBA history.
Yeah, there you go. Like, so Ben Simmons will then be the second best shooter in NBA history by this guy's logic.
That's the dumbest take I've ever heard in my entire existence.
Yeah,
I agree. Feel like it's just the awkward lankiness of their body and the fact that their legs both scissor out. Jesus Christ.
The hand thing as well, too. Like, how he doesn't know what hand he's shooting with. He doesn't know what he's doing. Reggie Miller is just so quick and so automatic. So I read that and laughed at my desk.
I also would have laughed.
Yeah.
So this is kind of going off of our topic from, I think it was last week. Clutch. Yeah, last week we talked about clutch. So I was scanning through my notes from each week at this point. Last week we talked about clutch players in the NBA. And for the 76ers, obviously last year it was Jimmy Butler. And the offense is obviously going to be very, very different this year. I'm curious to sit here and think what kind of offense you think they're going to run for their majority of the games, and then for their hurry up, under 2 minutes, under 1 minute left in quarters and halves. and in games, how you think that'll kind of change and what their offensive identity will be.
So I think starting the year out, there'll be a lot of ball movement, a lot of trying to get the ball down to Joel Embiid, a lot of, Al Horford hopping in there, maybe hitting a quick shot at the elbow, something like that. I think as Ben Simmons gets more confident and maybe develops somewhat of the ability to take a jump shot, not make them, just take it so that people have that threat a little bit, I think he's going to be a crucial part of the end of the game offense. And there's going to be a lot of ISO, a lot of him running around with the ball and him just taking over. In my head, I would love to see him one day be our guy at the end of the game. He's not there yet, mentally or just skill-wise, but I think that should be where we end up going.
I have forever said that is who I want, because if he's willing, he's so freaking athletic that it's almost impossible to guard him without fouling him. If he wants to get to the lane, he's going to get to the rim. Like, it's just going to happen. If he wants to pull up and shoot, I think that he's honestly going to terrify enough people that he's doing it. So, yeah, ideally at the end of the game, that's going to be the option. Not this year, I would say, but eventually. How do you think the offense changes now with Al Horford? Like, we both kind of already said that we think that he is going to be a little bit more of a focal point of the offense than what people are initially giving credit for. That being said, he's such a professional, and I feel like his style of play could adapt to almost anything. But he's not necessarily as athletically gifted as basically the rest of our roster is. How do you see that chemistry kind of working out?
Honestly, I said this before a little bit. I think I just cannot imagine him out there. I do not understand how the chemistry is going to work. It doesn't make sense. He is just so different than the rest of the guys. He is long like the rest of the team. I mean, and he is a great defender, but like offensively, he just plays a different ball game. And I have enough faith in Brett Brown that it's just going to happen. I think there's going to be a lot of just that basic shot at the elbow and a lot of him stepping back and just, letting everyone else shine a little bit. One of the guys I'm most excited for actually is Josh Richardson. And sorry to get off topic from Al Horford, but I think he fits in athletically and will benefit playing off the ball just as Al Horford will. Josh Richardson last year, so this was my favorite stat of the week that I learned. Ben Simmons played the 19 most amount of minutes per game last year at 35 minutes a game. The only Sixers player that played more minutes in a game last year was Josh Richardson. Literally the only player on the Sixers. And we forget that. He's going to be out there a lot. He's going to be running around. He's going to be playing crazy defense. And I think he is going to benefit off the ball just as Al Horford will.
Who is kind of on that topic, but just a different wave. But who would you rather have, Richardson or Covington?
Ooh, that's a. Ooh. I have a soft spot in my heart for Rocco.
Thank you. Me too.
I think my heart wants to say him, but I think Josh Richardson's good. I think we're going to luck out having him, and I think he's going to be a bigger part of the team than anyone seems to realize. I think people just aren't familiar enough with this game. I know I wasn't before the year started. I've had to do a ton of research on him, watch a lot of YouTube videos. As you guys know, I get stuck on quite the YouTube binge once in a while. And I'm excited to see him get out there and just, be able to shoot but not have to shoot, be athletic but not be the guy. Like, I think he's going to have a quietly great year, similar to Al Horford. They're just going to be content with their spot in the lineup, and they're going to become fan favorites for that, I think.
I hope so. I'm also super excited about Richardson, the imposter. Taking it back to last week with the nicknames there.
Oh, you mean the imposter in basics? Oh, yeah. They're going to have to.
Oh, That lasted a long time where we were going to only refer to 76ers as their given nickname. But since we haven't fully found nicknames that are super suitable for each of these players, I feel like that's got to happen kind of organically. But super excited for Richardson. And I think I am most excited because I loved Robert Covington. And I will never not say this when I have the opportunity. For the longest time at AMYP, we had a limit to the amount of files that we could continue to upload. So we used to have to go back like at the end of like a quarter and delete like a month's worth of episodes or move them to a different file so that they had to be requested by a listener as opposed to just readily available. And we had only two that I always kept up. One was me sitting here defending Robert Covington to Kevin, our former our former NBA 76ers host here at TJs One of Us, because he hated Robert Covington. And I challenged him to sit there. He's best segment I've ever been on in my entire life for AMYP or anything else, hands down. And then 24 hours later, he was fucking traded. I was so angry. You have no idea that I was so fucking right about Robert Covington. And I didn't even publish in time for people to listen to it and be like, oh, I'm excited about watching Robert Covington right now. But here's the thing. You do. He just has better fucking hair. And that is Josh Richardson. They're the same fucking player.
Yeah.
I'm super, super stoked for that very reason.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you have any additional notes on the 76ers for this week?
No, I was just happy I got to talk about the amount of minutes that Ben and Josh are going to be out on the floor.
You didn't tell what was Josh Richardson out for, by the way. You said 35 for Ben Simmons. You did not say what Josh Richardson was out for.
Josh Richardson was out for, I think, about 35 minutes. It was just give or take a tenth of a minute or whatever how the stat was. So they were very similar. But Josh Richardson was right above Ben Simmons. So yeah,
Robert Covington.
Exactly. The same exact thing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to our final segment here, as we almost always close it off with this, our Zhaire stache. So you can, if you ever want to participate in this, you can find the rules and you can find what this is all about on the AMYP website. It's www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. We are constantly updating this website, trying to find something that actually looks semi-okay. We have started to put some of our bits out there, and one of those is Zhaire's stache, the NBA's handsome man of the week, someone that goes to bat against. It doesn't really work. Doesn't matter. Goes up against the NBA's seventh best player in Zhaire Smith for the handsome member of the week. You said you got a good one, so I'm excited. Who is your pick?
So as I was walking out of work today, which is Tuesday, my buddy I talked to about basketball and work grabbed me real quick and went, man, I got to show you something. He pulled up his Instagram feed, and it was the LeBron Taco Tuesday video of the week. And we've all seen them. We're all horrified by them. And we also can't get him saying Taco Tuesday out of our head for at least all of Tuesday. But the thing that my buddy had said to me was not, oh, it's Taco Tuesday. Oh, LeBron's ruining the NBA. Oh, I'm excited about LeBron because my buddy's a Lakers fan. He said, man, LeBron is fucking ugly, isn't he? And I could not stop laughing. We went on for about, I would say, the next 5 minutes talking about how ugly LeBron was. And my favorite memory of ugly LeBron was last year I got to go to the Lakers game when the Sixers played the Lakers. My company has, very good seats that we got. So we got to sit down close, and I had invited a friend with me to the game. And she doesn't care that much about basketball, but she's excited to be there. The Lakers games are a production. And she was like, all right, tell me who are the famous guys. So we pointed out Kevin Hart was on the other side, a couple other famous people. I pointed out the baby mama parade, all the, the girls that come and follow and watch the players. And then I pointed out, I was like, do you see that giant bald spot right there? And she's like, oh, yeah, who's that? I was like, that's LeBron James. She's like, get out of here. No way. So if you sit behind LeBron, you can see I would say small, saucer plate bald spot on the top of his head, and it makes the rest of us feel a little bit better about ourselves.
He certainly is not a handsome individual at all. First of all, the only thing I was thinking about, by the way, during your entire thing, did you see the blown up picture of LeBron? I don't remember if he was going in for like a block off the backboard, one of his chase down blocks, or if he was the one dunking on a breakaway or whatever. But his face is all like scrunched and awkward, and he looks exactly like Andre Iguodala. Have you seen that?
No, I have not seen it, but I have to pull that up.
All right, I will find the pictures and I will send them to you. And for AMYP listeners of this show right now, I strongly encourage you to just like Google search quickly, does LeBron James look like Andre Iguodala? So here's the thing. I have never really seen it. Like, I can see similarities where I'm like, maybe they're the same. I looked at it again while I don't remember what the hell when Andre Iguodala's book came out. He was talking about the chase down block and everything like that. And I was like, let me take a look again. I was like, God damn it. It really does. It hurts me because Andre Iguodala, I fucking love. Yeah, I'm going to say that he is not more handsome than Zhaire Smith. I'm sorry, man. That one's not going to work out for me.
God, no. I just wanted to talk about his giant bald spot, to be honest.
Wow. How could you not? So I have in mind, it is an ode to such a weird week of jersey finds. So we're obviously big jersey guys, which is strange because neither one of us really wear them outside of our home. But I went to the store. I was making homemade pasta the other night because, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I decided, I was like, all right, let me think of like a fun kind of like home date night thing since the missus had a long day. So we're going to make some homemade Italian food. So I went to the store, went to get, I needed to get flour and some other shit to actually make the pasta dough. And in the fucking grocery store in 2019, there was a black number 7 76ers Tony Kukoc jersey.
No way.
I shit you not. And it was like the old skinny sleeves. So it wasn't even like the Iverson aged, like over the shoulder sleeves, basically like the thicker width. So like, I couldn't believe it. Like it was awkward. I definitely followed this dude into like 3 different rows to make sure I was seeing what I was seeing. And so I was sitting here and I was like, man, Tony Kukoc. So I couldn't get it out of my head all week. And the only thing I sit there and see is like, this dude looks like he should have been like a divorce attorney that's like faces on a bench or something with his goofy goatee, no gel in his hair, just kind of weird looking white guy who wore like oversized suits because it was fucking 2003 or whatever the hell year it was. So Tony Kukoc for me is my player up against Zhaire Smith for NBA's Handsome Player of the Week. What do you got for me? Yes? No?
No chance, but I respect the hell out of that guy for wearing that jersey. What a find.
All right. Also, was not wearing a shirt underneath the jersey.
Of course not. If you're wearing a Tony Kukoc jersey, you clearly don't care what other people think about you. So
100% no. Had like the Navy whatever thing on his shoulder, the tattoo thing on his shoulder that so many Navy people have. I was like, no, I'm not going to go ask this guy about his jersey at all. I don't want to piss this man off. But so Zhaire lives again. So far it's been what 7 or 8 shows now since we started doing this. And we had Gordon Hayward rivaled it. We had Matisse Thybulle almost, but then we used the word adorable to describe him, so that did not work. And Rick Fox was the other one, and that was the first one to dethrone for the week Zhaire Smith. If you guys have any polls that you would like us to sit here and review, send in NBA's Handsome Player of the Week to AMYP. You can also find us on the WhatsApp now. I don't know how that works. I just know that you can do it if you go to our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. Scott, do you have any final thoughts for us?
I'm glad you brought up the WhatsApp. So I'm pumped to get some Sixers takes coming in. I want to hear how you guys feel about our Zhaire stash segment, media players of the week, or our rankings. Tell Shane and I how wrong we are about the Denver Nuggets. We want to hear about it. So I'm excited to talk to you guys.
Yeah, for sure. So last year we were doing like you guys could DM us on Twitter, and that was fine. Not quite as fun. And didn't last quite as long. People, I guess, don't find regularly established conversations in DMs. It's like a one-type thing, and you're like, all right, that's it. So not a lot of repeat call-ins. This year, I'm excited because when the Sixers inevitably cannot close out a game against the Hawks, I can get your rant videos now and your rant audio. You can just send them into the WhatsApp, and then you will hear yourself on show. And then me and Scott will react to you, or Scott and whoever's on the show with him will react to you, and it will be gold. So definitely utilize the WhatsApp. You can text us during games. Chances are we're watching it. One of the members will get back to you. It'll be a lot of fun. My final kind of interesting tidbit for the week, and we both saw this, Scott, was the fact that Vince Carter is older than the 3-point line. So I saw that on Reddit. Thank you so much for making me download this fucking app. It has so much shit that I have to read now every single day because I see the most absurd takes ever on there and interesting finds like this. So at 42 years old, Vince Carter is 2 years older than the 3-point line. And that is hilarious to me. So obviously this is the year of making fun of how old Vince Carter is and how old Steph Curry is. Or at least we're speaking that into existence at this point.
Yeah.
But I did find that hilarious. And this is fantastic. I've also already sat here and given our ad spots, 2 of them this week, killing it. I have nothing else for you. You have anything?
No. It was a good week. I'm glad we got to talk about Vince Carter being old again. So
yeah, it's anytime we can.
Yeah. All right. I think it's about time we close this one out here.
All right. So as always, you can find our work on the website that I've mentioned at least 4 or 5 times throughout this pod. Please be sure to rate and review the podcast. We definitely want to hear what you have to think. You can do that on Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever the hell you listen to your podcast. We should now be on. That'll be it for this week. Mercifully, next week, Scott will take over as host, or at least we think next week, for TJs One of Us. For the last time as host, I am your host, Shane. Scott, I'll see you next week.
Through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with a win. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.